For this week's video, I'll show you another antique camera. This is the Voigtländer Rollfilm, made between 1927 and 1932. It's a predecessor of the Bessa cameras, which are more popular, and it was made during the transition period between glass plates to roll film. So in this video, I'll tell you the usual reasons why I got the camera, and also I'll show you how everything works and describe how things feel. So I got this camera because lately I've been thinking about what kinds of cameras we'll be able to make in the future. And it doesn't look like we'll be able to make really sophisticated cameras like they used to in the 90s or early 2000s. So I've been looking at older, more simple cameras. And this one from the Depression-ish era, this sort of camera seems to be the sort of basic low feature kind of camera that we'll be able to make with contemporary manufacturing methods like CNC machining and 3D printing and things like that. So another reason I got this one in particular was because it was the most basic kind of folding camera you could get. It doesn't have a rangefinder, and it doesn't have a film advance mechanism that locks on the next frame, that stops at the next frame. And all it has is like this wireframe viewfinder, the brilliant viewfinder up here, and scale focusing. So I wanted to see what the shooting experience with a really basic camera was going to be like. And as for the feel of the camera overall, it's really well made and surprisingly well put together and well designed. So as far as the size and weight is concerned, this is pretty big camera overall when it's unfolded. It's pretty comparable to the Fuji GW690 cameras, so it's about the same length, and it's about the same height, though it's a little shorter because it doesn't have a viewfinder. And as far as the depth of the lens goes, it's pretty similar. Of course, this is a lot lighter than this is, just because it's so much less dense. And the lens is a lot slower too. So, but once you fold it up, that's when it gets really compact. So you fold it up like this. I'll explain it, the whole thing later. But you fold it up, and now it's really flat and compact compared to the GS645. It's still quite a bit longer, but it's a little bit thinner this way from the top, and most significantly it's shorter vertically, so I can fit it into a coat pocket like this one, so you can take it around with you like wherever you go, even well, maybe not so much in the summer, but in the winter we have to wear a coat or like some big jacket. You can take it around, and if you have like just if the occasion only calls for a jacket, that could work too. So I just put on my like regular old bomber jacket thingy here, and yeah, and then I'll show you that this camera still fits into the coat pocket of more normal sort of jacket that you might wear in maybe, I guess the summertime you might want to wear a jacket during the night. That's really cool how you can just put this in a pocket and take it around with you wherever you want. It's very portable that way, so that's like the killer app of this kind of camera. It's just so portable. So anyway, as far as all the features go, let's see. So as far as the features go, it's really basic. So the wireframe viewfinder, it doesn't have any sort of parallax correction or anything. You just put your eye up as close as you can get to the frame, and then you can sort of see the edges of this frame from back here. It's a little bit better if I take off my glasses. And you can like see this edge a little bit better. So the eye relief is better than the other options, like those really small targeting frames. But yeah, in the vertical position, it's a little bit harder than in the horizontal orientation. For some reason, like just having your nose in the way instead of having your eyeglasses in the way is a little bit better. So if you're wearing glasses, this doesn't get in the way like it would in the vertical orientation. Let's see, the brilliant viewfinder, even though this one's clean, the image is still pretty dim and low contrast. You can basically tell what's in the frame, but it's not very crisp and clear. But it's enough to tell if you're pointed in the right direction and the general idea of where the edges of the frame are. The cool thing about this is that if you fold that out of the way, you can rotate it up here, so you can use it in the horizontal orientation too. These viewfinder thingies are actually pretty nicely designed. Like the wireframe has a detent here, and it's spring loaded. So there's a little notch and a groove that it fits into to make the detent, and it snaps into place. And on the Brilliant Viewfinder, there's a little cutout at the top of the eyepiece where a little peg hits the end in the vertical orientation, and also in the horizontal orientation. So it might be really basic, but everything is really well thought through and nicely made and precise. So I'm really impressed with this, with the craftsmanship of this camera. Over here on this side, this is the focusing scale and the focusing lever. You press down on it to take it off infinity, and then you slide it. There's a little bit of grip on the top, and the shape is at the right angle. This triangle makes a nice angle for you to push and pull this lever back and forth. Mine is a little bit stiff, so it might be a little bit easier to adjust after I clean it and put new grease on it. when you get to the infinity, it snaps back into place. Next on the lens, you've got the shutter speed dial and the shutter mode dial. This is a dial set contour, so it's a pretty common type of shutter that you'll see on lots of other kinds of cameras. So basically, on the top of this dial, it has a little bit of knurling up here, and it's pretty easy to turn it. It goes from 1 second to a half a second to a fifth of a second, a tenth of a second, 25th, 60th, 100th, and 2/50th of a second. You can go from 250 to 1 second, but you can't go backwards from 1 second to 2/50th of a second. And over here on this little dial, it says I for instant, B for bulb, and T for time. And it also has the letters in German on the top. But this shutter, I actually need to fix it because it only fires at the same shutter speed, even if you set it to something else. So you have the shutter cocking lever here, which is nice and firm. And then you have the shutter release lever here. This is not one of those kinds of shutters where you can squeeze like halfway and then release it all the way. It's more like it releases at the halfway point. It's kind of weird. There's no tactile feedback for when you're getting close to it. So if you're doing an action shot, just hit the shutter lever and then to take the picture. It's not something where you're like squeezing it in advance and then pressing the rest of the way to take a photo. So if you're taking like an action shot like this, you're just and then just hit the lever to take a photo. So aside from that, we've got the little lever here with one of those stacked circular buttons that I really like. And you can see the aperture up at the top. Mine is a little bit stiff, but I'm assuming that it'll be smoother after I repair this camera. And the shutter, I just hit that a second ago, but it's kind of quiet, but I don't really know what it sounds like on the other speeds, but it's kind of quiet. Not as quiet exactly as, like an Olympus 10 or whatever, but it's totally fine for medium format sort of lens. Yeah. Let's see, the next thing after that. The next thing. Okay. The film advance. So it has this fold up crank, and it turns smoothly. And you can sort of hear mechanism while you turn it. You can't go backwards, you can't go counterclockwise, so that's good. And on the back, you have the little red window to look at the frame counter numbers coming up in the roll. Let's see. So that's basically it for the front parts of the camera. Let's see. I guess I can point out that it has a cable release there. But yeah, to fold up the camera, you have these finger grips, which are like really beautifully designed, I think. Like, when I was shopping around, I was looking at all the different designs they had for finger grips, and I like this one the most. It's sort of like, it looks like sort of like a clamshell or something. But anyway, So you set the lens to infinity, and then you can push it back. Ooh, make sure to fold that. And you pull it back, and then you can put your fingers on these little curved parts here to disengage the struts, which are really sturdy. Like when it's unfolded, you can move it a little bit, but it always returns to the original position, and it doesn't really bend or anything. The bed doesn't bend or curve or anything, so it's a really sturdy camera. So you just push down on this, and the springs down here. There you go, like that. And the door wiggles a little bit, but it's really sturdy. Sometimes in your pocket, this can get pushed in and it'll pop out a little bit, but it only happened to me once so far. Anyway, to open the back of the camera, there's a little sliding button at the top, and you have to make sure to open this so it doesn't scratch up the leather when you open it. So you slide this towards you to the left, and then you can open it like that. This camera, it doesn't have a pressure plate, so that helps make it thinner, but you have to make sure that the tension on the spools is really tight, just to make sure that the film lays flat. The little latches for the film spools, it's like a sliding lock, which is, kind of sturdy, but a little scratchy, I guess. And you can move the spools over to the other side pretty easily. Yep, like that. Slide them back. And to close it back, make sure to pull this and then let go of it so it snags into place. And you fold it down like this. This is pretty sturdy too, so it's a nice sturdy hinge. Aside from that, you have this little kickstand on the front, in case you want to do a selfie or something. Just rest the camera on a flat surface, so it has that too. So overall, this camera is surprisingly well made, and just thought through to every single detail. People always talk about the marvels of engineering in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, and this is a really good example of that. This thing is just amazingly made and designed. So if you finely made mechanical objects, you might as well get a roll film camera, because they're just really cool, and they just they really hit all those buttons of retro sort of steampunky tech and stuff like that. So I would recommend getting one of these, even if you don't need a travel medium format camera. So that's pretty much it for this video. Really nicely made, cool, basic, simple camera. Might actually be a challenge for little small companies to make something like this, just because of all the little parts and everything that go into even these really basic features. There are a lot of little parts on this thing, so it might be a challenge even to replicate something like this nowadays. but I think something along these lines could still be made. Maybe with a different front standard to repurpose lenses that were made for like the baby speed graphic or something like that. And maybe not collapsing folding bellows. It could be like a fixed cone or something like that, or whatever. But the film advance mechanism, they could probably replicate that. And the viewfinder, these simple viewfinders, they could definitely replicate that. But as far as all this jewel-like folding up and collapsing of the lens and everything, I'm not sure they'll really bother doing that. Anyhow, who knows what they'll make in the future? But I think they'll definitely make cameras that are sort of more manual, that don't have as many interlocks to prevent multi-exposure or stopping the frame at the next frame or anything like that. So I think something along this might be what we have to look forward to in the 21st century. So what is past is the future, maybe. Who knows? Anyway, that's it for this week. Thanks for watching, and I hope you have a good week.